Hey guys, yeah, Joe SCHIMDT has just been announced as the Wallabies' new head coach. And I thought, what better time than now to you guys what I believe Joe SCHIMDT would potentially pick as his Wallabies side for 2024. Again, remember, he has 2 years kind of now in this role. So, of course, he'll be the head coach well, after actually the British and Irish Lions series against, of course, his Irish compatriot Andy Farrell. So that'll be a good battle right there. But again, I have to base this team off what I believe he'll kind of go for in the next 2 years, not really what he's going for the next in terms of the World Cup. So just keep that in mind. But also just, there has to be a lot of changes really with this Wallaby squad because, again, they really let a lot of people down in terms of the group stages. So I can definitely see a lot of reshuffling in terms of what Joe SCHIMDT will do. So that's kind of what I've tried to do with this squad as well. But yeah, besides that, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to comment below, guys. Let me know if you guys agree with the squad and also just what kind of squad you think Joe SCHIMDT would go with as well. But yeah, besides that, let's get straight into this. So as you can see right here, guys, this is the front row that I've selected in terms of what Joe SCHIMDT would choose. I've gone with the likes of Angus Bell, I've gone with Matt Fazer, and as well as Alan Alatoa. So again, we have 3 players from 3 different clubs and from the Waratahs, Reds, and Brumbies. And again, with Angus Bell, he's actually pretty impressive, actually, I'd say, throughout the Rugby World Cup. And in terms of props, like, he actually did a lot for the Wallabies. He actually wasn't a player that I would say let down the Wallabies, because, again, there's a few you can mention, but I don't think he was one of them for sure. Yeah, he actually just had a good World Cup. I mean, did well for the Wallabies in moments, and he's one for the future as well. Because again, when you have James Slipper, who of course is now 34 years old, you're going to need a successor. And I think Angus Bell is now definitely has the capability to kind of fill that role. So he's the number one for sure. In terms of the other prop, of course, in terms of that tight head, you're going to go with someone. You're obviously going to go with someone like Alan Alatoa, and yeah, it's just one of those where I think he obviously just missed out on the Rep Cup on a whole because he was injured, so he never really got the opportunity to kind of prove himself. And again, I'd say Taniela Tupou was the one who took up most of the minutes there. But again, I think Joe SCHIMDT will agree in me saying this, where he's more of an impact player, I'd say, and someone who can finish off the game rather than start. So that's why I would still have someone like Alan Alatoa to take up most of the minutes in terms of that spot. And again, he has a ton of experience and has always been a good player in terms of the Brumbies as well as the Wallabies. But yeah, and then in terms of the hooker spot, I've gone with Matt Fazer here. And yeah, it's a tricky one, this, because again, in terms of the hookers, you have Dave Parecki, you have Jordan Uwasi, you have, of course, Matt Fazer, you have Alex Maffey, the teammate, of course, and then you have Billy Pollard, of course, the Brumbies as well. I believe there is one more I'm forgetting. But I know for sure there's at least 5 out there in terms of hookers with potential who can obviously slot into that starting role. But personally, I think at the moment, Matt Fazer is the one I think I'd go with in terms of what Joe SCHIMDT will see, just because I think Dave Parecki really just let himself down, I'd say, at the World Cup. Just, his line-out success just was not the best in terms of his, line-out accuracy. And that's something which the Wallabies definitely need because, they can't build off anything if, the throws aren't going in the correct way. And just, so it's just, yeah, it's one of those where I felt a bit bad because, again, he has a ton of experience and he's a solid player, but he just didn't have a good World Cup. So it's one of those where I think a bit of a change needs there. And again, with Jordan Uwasi, he was really more of, I'd say, an Eddie Jones favorite. So I wouldn't really see him as a pick for Joe SCHIMDT. Again, I may be wrong on that point, but I just think Matt Fazer is probably the one for the moment I'd say Joe SCHIMDT will go with the potential of, I'd say, Billy Pollard in the kind of the sidelines there. Maybe even making starting to you'll have to wait and see. But I guess in terms of locks that I think Joe SCHIMDT will go with, I think we'll go with a bit of experience here. So he'll go with the likes of Isaac Rodda here, as well as Will Skelton. And again, I mean, you're not going to obviously, Will Skelton you have to have because he's an exceptional player, one of the best locks, I'd say, in World Rugby. But again, he was the captain, of course, for the Wallabies side in that walk in 2023. But yeah, just again, he didn't get as many minutes as you would expect because he was injured from the beginning, and he didn't even get to play in that game against Fiji. And I guarantee you, it would have been a different story if the Wallabies had kind of a more healthy squad actually going into this Rep World Cup, which a lot of people do forget. Actually, they didn't have their full squad with them, so it kind of did change a bit of what the plans of what Eddie was going into. But at the same time, look, Will Skelton, he's an exceptional player, so you're going to have him there, of course, on locks. But in terms of the other lock, I think Isaac Rodda is probably the one I'd go with because there's no longer Matt Phillip because, again, he's off. You're not going to probably go with Rich Yarno. I just think I don't know. I really wasn't impressed by him, I think, in the Wallaby setup. And again, Nick Frost, he's definitely one I'm going to you would definitely use, but I just think he needs more times, and he still has he has time on his side. He's only like 23, 24 now, so he has a lot of time. So I'd still go a bit more of an experienced player who's been in the Wallabies setup previously, and that's why I've gone with Isaac Rodda, because again, he's now returned towards the Western Force. So yeah, I just think he's someone I'd definitely go with in terms of kind of like that locking duo there. But yeah, in terms of the loose forward pack, I've gone the likes of Tom Hooper there, number 6, Fres McWright, number 7, and then Harry Wilson at number 8, and that might shock a few people, but I think this is where you got to kind of shift a few things around. And again, Top Hooper, again, he was Eddie Jones' favorite, kind of allowed him to make his debut, and again, he actually had a solid. He was decent. I'd say from the Rugby Championship and all that. Again, from the Rugby World Cup, just I don't think he really made as big of an impact as you would like to see. So he has to definitely work on a lot of things. Again. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Schmidt went with someone like Rob Valentini there, or even like Lachlan Sakai-Loto, because I know he's now back and he's not going to be playing for the Reds. Oh, well, for the Rebels, I mean. But I think for now, I think just Tom Hooper is the safe bet, because again, he's been in the Wallabies setup previously. But again, Fres McWright, he probably has that 7 jersey locked on now, just because Michael Hooper, of course, is now left. And again, he's always been, Fres McWright, I think, has always been the successor towards Michael Hooper, and this is where he gets to do it. I think he now has the opportunity to kind of have that spot for his own, and I don't really see another number 7 taking his spot. I mean, again, I know Hooper, obviously, Tom Hooper played in there, but I just think it was wrong. I think they have to go with Fres McWright, and I think he's just so good in terms of kind of turnovers, and also just getting a bit of running meters. So yeah, I think Fres McWright you have to have, and then yeah, Harry Wilson probably the big one, because he wasn't even selected by Eddie Jones throughout his time, which is crazy to think, because Dave Rennie, when he had him, he kind of saw the potential with him. He kind of reminds me in a way like where I know this is obviously, I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying that like with Artis Sevilla, he's known for like running with the ball, and he just had he got I think the most running meters in the Rugby World Cup or something like that in terms of forward, if I'm not mistaken. Harry Wilson clocks up a ton of running meters, like when you've seen Super Rugby. So I just think it's something which I think Joe Schmidt will also appreciate in terms of a number 8. So that's kind of why I think he would look maybe towards Harry Wilson, and maybe even bring him back into the Wallabies setup. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But anyway, in terms of the kind of the backs, I think he'll go with in terms of the 9-10 combination. I know it's a big one here, but I've gone with Tim McDermott and Noah LaSalle. I think there'll be a return of Noah LaSalle back into the Wallabies setup. Again, another player similar towards Harry Wilson, where he just didn't get selected under Eddie Jones. Just not really a fan of his, which I think was wrong, because Noah LaSalle has been actually a great player. Whenever he's played for the Wallabies, he's actually been pretty good. And again, under the Brumbies, he's always been pretty. He's been great actually. So it's one of those where I was really surprised to see that he wasn't even thought of. Again, I understand obviously Connor Gordon had a great season under Super Rugby and all that, but he just didn't really make much of his opportunity within the Rugby World Cup. And again, he was the sole fly half they chose, essentially, because they went without Quade Cooper and Bernard Foley, who of course now I wouldn't even think of. And really the only other fly half you're going to think of is probably James O'Connor as an experienced one. And he's, I think, right now, 33? So by the time the Lions comes around, he'll be 35-ish, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's a tough choice. So I think the Wallabies definitely have to go with more of a younger, I think, fly half, in my opinion. I think that's what Joe Schmidt is going to realize as well. So I think Tate McDermott, I think, has to be the number 9, just because I think he just exudes energy, and I think it's something which I like. I think Joe Schmidt has always kind of preferred kind of a quick 9 as well, because you have to remember back in the day. This is where I have to quickly think on my feet. Conor Murray was obviously the number 9 for most of the time under Joe Schmidt, and Conor Murray reminds me. Tate McDermott reminds me a bit like Conor Murray in a way, not like Nick White. I think Nick White is more, I don't know, he's kind of very different in how he kind of plays. So I think Joe Schmidt would appreciate the style of play which Tim McDermott does in terms of attacking it and trying to go for the try rather than kind of looking more for a ball playing kind of scrum half, if that makes sense. But again, I just think that's the 9-10 combination. Again, there can be a lot of changes, and I know what you guys may say. If you guys don't disagree with me in terms of that, let me know. But I think that's for now what I would go with, because again, you have to remember we need changes in this Wallabies side, so you got to make some tough choices here, and that's one of them. But yeah, in terms of the centers, I've gone with the duo that should have been in the World Cup, which was Samu Karevi, number 12, and Len Ikatel, number 13. Again, unfortunately, another player who didn't even get to play really much in the World Cup because he got injured, Len Ikatel. So that's a player who really just unfortunately just missed out on the whole opportunity, because again he got injured against, I believe, was it against Argentina, if I'm not mistaken, in the Rugby Championship. So, yeah, it was one of those where it was really unfortunate. And again, I think it was Jordan Bataille who played most of the minutes in number 13, and that combination with Samu Kerevi just really didn't work out, in my opinion. So, I think Leonard Cattell is just more of a balanced player. I'd say number 13. It just works really well from a chemistry standpoint with Samu Kerevi. So, I think that's probably the combination I think Joe Schmidt will look to kind of go back to and kind of because it works pretty well. And we've seen it under Dave Rennie and a bit through Eddie Jones as well. But yeah, I just think that's the combination hands down. And yeah, hoping to see obviously more of Leonard Cattell because he's a great player. And of course, we know what Samu Kerevi can do. He's great. But anyway, moving on then towards the final three. This is the final three I think Joe Schmidt will go with in terms of Marika Ward-Betty at the number 11 spot, Andrew Kellaway at number 14, and Ben Donaldson at the number 15. So, yeah, some tricky decisions there, of course. Again, I mean, Marika Ward-Betty, you're always going to pick. You have to have him. He's a world-class winger, so there's no doubt you're obviously going to go with him. But in terms of that number 14 spot, it's an interesting one because normally in this position I'd be choosing Mark Narquatawasi, but of course he's kind of pledged himself that he's now going to go towards the NOR. So I just don't see any reason why Joe Schmidt would also choose him. So I think the next in line really to him is Andrew Kellaway. Again, I think he's been a good player and a good servant towards the Wallabies, and in recent years, well, I mean, under Dave Rennie, he was pretty good actually. Scored a ton of tries under his belt. So yeah, I think he was even nominated, if I'm not mistaken, for Breakthrough Player of the Year or something at one point. I may be wrong with that, but I know he was in the conversation. So yeah, most improved maybe that was the one. But all I know is that he's definitely a player which I think can definitely help the Wallabies in that sense, and he just has a try-scoring instinct. So he's probably a player I'd go with in that position in terms of what Joe Schmidt will choose. But yeah, again, Ben Donaldson you have to go with. He was probably the best player I'd say for the Wallabies in that World Cup in 2023. And yeah, just kind of controlled the Wallabies really from the fullback position. Got a ton of, I think he got like 3 tries for himself, if I'm not mistaken. Really got most of the points for them as well. So yeah, he's definitely one to look out for the future. And again, he's now moved on obviously from the Waratahs towards the Western Force. So I like the move a lot as well because I think at the Western Force they have a better team than the Waratahs as well. So I just think he has more of an opportunity to also get to the playoffs, which is what I really want to kind of have that kind of playing time, and what I think the head coaches want to see as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of the reason why I've gone with him in that 15th spot. But yeah, besides that, guys, that is the Wallabies side that I believe Joe Schmidt will choose for 2024 going off right now. Again, like I said, we'll do one in the future, of course, but really in terms of what I believe the side will be, not what Joe Schmidt will go with. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys obviously enjoyed this video. Wallaby fans, let me know what you think about this Joe Schmidt. Do you think he's the right man or not? Let me know in the comments as well. But yeah, besides that, make sure to like the video, guys. Subscribe to our channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.